What you just said.
9 to noon.
KFAN is my favorite station. You're listening to my dad and Uncle Paul on the Fan.
Big boy's back. Just listen. Personal foul. Clipping.
This is a great setup, Bob. Where's Harper when you need him?
Time for 2 more.
Good stuff.
You like that? You like that?
Hey, it's a beautiful Tuesday in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is FM 100.3 KFAN. Or as those beautiful cherubs just called it, KFAN. Like 97.2% of the population, including all of the kids. 9 to noon is here to compete.
Get it in here. I got one thing to say. This is when the big dogs come out. Okay? All right. You can't roll the big dogs. Stay on the board.
Hey, Nordo.
Hey.
Did I remember to send you a text for the positional numbers for the Minnesota Vikings at cut time the last couple of years?
I have positional numbers from 2023 and 2022 in my possession in front of my face at this very moment.
The 9 to noon radio presentation hit on predicted numbers via the numbers game for the Minnesota Vikings offense yesterday, the purple offense yesterday, and we ended at 25. Now, copyright all the kids. This is in low-key fashion. With a right to change it. Not that the Eagles game, the final preseason game, the life changer for some, not that that's going to dictate and or predicate whatever is to be changed. But nevertheless, the thought process may go a certain direction. The steam may become steamy. The currently chill water eventually may boil. And Eagles land. And you never know when Eagles land. And when Eagles land, we have a way of coyly sharing when it comes to this numbers game. Now, there are some problem spots that we have in trying to get to this 53. And yesterday we addressed some of them, like Jaron Hall, quarterback. Does he stay on the active roster as the active 3? Robert Tonyan. If I missed something and he practiced yesterday, I apologize, but they like him, and he likes it here, and we like speedy tight ends, and as of late, he hasn't been practicing. So, like, feeling 5 active game day wide receivers because Brandon Powell, Jalen Naylor, and Trent Sherfield Sr., well, they all play key special teams roles. So we need to figure out how well Tristan Jackson can aid on special teams, or if that's like even a thing for him. So let's start here. Go on and hit me with that 2022 and 2023 positional group finale for the numbers into the openers, if you don't mind. And good morning.
Good morning. So if we're looking at 2023, the Minnesota Vikings kept 5 wide receivers. They kept 9 offensive linemen.
9?
They kept 4 tight ends.
Yeah.
3 QB. And a total of 4 running backs / CJ Ham.
And baby girls in a pear tree. All right.
So that led us, I believe, to 25.
Yeah.
A total of 25.
Yeah.
Defensively, are you ready?
Yeah.
Last year, the Vikings kept 5 outside linebackers. They kept 4 inside linebackers.
Thank you.
The interior line, I kind of grouped them all together, but it was Lowry, and it was a total of 5 with Lowry and Bullard as your D ends, and then Phillips, Tonga, and Roy as your D tackles.
Kyrus Tonga. Who knew?
Yeah, no kidding. Cornerbacks, 6.
Yeah.
And then safeties,
5?
5.
Right. Okay. So what about 2022? We're trying to get these KOC takes and tells and talkers.
Well, you believe that, sometimes humans can be creatures of habit, PA.
Oh, yeah.
To the offense we go. 5 wide receivers.
Okay.
They threw a little curveball at us here. 10 offensive linemen.
Hey.
I know. Only 3 tight ends. 2 QBs.
Yeah.
And a total of 5 running backs / CJ Ham.
Holy cow. Okay.
Which I believe gets us to 25.
Okay.
And then on the defensive side of things, 5 outside linebackers, 4 interior backers. The interior D-line, again, I grouped them all together. Bullard, Notomawa, DNs, Phillips, Tomlinson, Blacklock, and Lynch, DTs. So that's a total of 6 on the interior.
It says the Otomawa.
Who knew? 6 cornerbacks.
Yeah.
And only 4 safeties, which gets you to 25.
Get you to 25. All right.
25 and 25 and 25 and 25 appears to be the track record of this regime, PA, Donatel or Flores.
So does it go 25 and 25 in 24? Interestingly, we finished yesterday with the offense at 25 in less than ballyhooed fashion. So let's fade the music and fire up 9 to noon and get serious about this numbers game. This is
good morning.
And good morning. This is very, very serious stuff. With Jaron Hall, can they get the Green Bay game out of their head? All right. Can they get the Green Bay Packers game late in the season last year at the Palatial Purple Paradise? Can they get that out of their head? It's, my man had a chance to start. He worked all week at it. And then they played the game. And the game, otherwise known as the penultimate and the final home game, well, the rookie was so bad he was pulled at the end of the first half.
Oh my gosh.
And he was picked by Corey Ballantyne and strip sacked by Preston Smith.
Oh my gosh.
Losing is one thing, but that penultimate to the 2023 was a bad, bad day for Jaron Hall. Can the constituents who matter most get that out of their heads? Because if they can't, then Jaron Hall will be on somebody else's practice squad or somebody else's active 3. Ben Gessling, the scribe who covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. And don't forget about the newsletter.
Here we go, Paul!
One question for him, would it simply be, has Jaron Hall done enough in camp / the games to get that Green Bay game out of collective heads?
Right.
And I'd be interested to hear what Gessling has to say about that.
Right. So to the defense today, and we will see how far we get. It's interesting to note that defense and offense, and then we got the 3 specialists, obviously, but defense and offense, the Kevin O'Connell-led Minnesota Vikings have gone 25 and 25 and 22, 25 and 25 and 23. And the announcer, whose opinion matters none, has them at 25 with offense into the defensive prognostications today. Now, let's see. Defensive linemen. They kept 5 last year and 6 in 2022. This is perplexing.
Well, can we go? Bullard's on the team, is he not?
I have Harrison Phillips, Jonathan Bullard, Jaquelin Roy, Levi Drake Rodriguez.
Oh my gosh.
Jerry Tillery. Dillery Doc. Somebody might get cut, not have enough money to buy a clock. Phillips, Bullard, Jaquelin Roy, Levi Drake Rodriguez, and Dillery Doc.
So that's a total of 5.
So that's 5, but I don't know what to do with Jonah Williams, the former Ram, the free agent.
I heard he was turning heads early.
And he was also turning heads at Cleveland a little deeper in the game than I thought he would.
I always love that one.
So I'm going to stick right there for a second. Jonah Williams, I put him on the higher side of the 50-50 bit. if they indeed listen, Phillips, and if I'm missing somebody here, by all means, slide him in.
Well, after that, I mean, you're talking Jalen Redmond.
Yeah, no, I know the roster, but I'm just saying if something, Jonah Williams would be the one.
That would be the only one that's
Phillips, Bullard, Jaquela Roy, Levi Drake Rodriguez.
got to have him.
Got to have him. He twitchy. Jerry Tillery. Outside linebackers. All right. 5 last year, 5 the year before. I'm saying 6.
Whoa.
Grenard, Dallas Turner, Patrick Jones, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jihad Ward, and Gabriel Murphy.
Oh, my gosh.
Gabriel.
Is Murphy practicing again? Can we get my man back out on the field?
Okay, that's my question. Is a guy like Bo Richter is being he's contributing on the field, albeit in preseason games.
No doubt.
Has Gabriel Murphy played in either of the games?
I don't believe he has.
I don't believe he has. May I ask you about Jihad Ward?
Well,
in terms
yes.
of what he's up to.
Super physical guy. He's a big guy. He's very physical. Might not be the fastest thing in the world. Like Gilmore and Moreau and Shaq Griffin and Byron Murphy to a certain extent. He has a lot of game experience, including postseason experience.
Okay.
So Jihad Ward, I have in my super special 6. Murphy's the wild card. Now, they paid the prettiest of all pretty pennies for Gabriel Murphy. So if you put him on the practice squad, knowing that there were multiple teams you had to outbid to get him, well, does that mean even if unless there's some kind of injury clip here that's like going to last part of the season or whatever, but I got to believe they think if they put Murphy on the practice squad that there's a fair country chance they lose him.
Well, and we saw a couple of years ago when they paid a similar pretty penny to get Luigi Villain.
Right.
And they ended up keeping him as part of the final 53. Didn't really work out in the long term, but they made that investment and they went out of their way to keep him on the roster.
And the LSU undrafted Tashawn Bauer. They paid a lot for him like a half decade ago. So I'm gonna stick with 6 right there. With the inside linebackers and the DBs, including the corners and the safeties. We will share that during the course of the radio show. What do the lots in life include for the Duke? The Duke is on fire. Or is it the Duke? The Duke may be fired, and Lewis Seen. I mean, those are 2 feel-good stories, and 1 L may be coming, or maybe 2. 3 inside linebackers could be the bit. What about Andre Carter? This whole thing's a conundrum. Jihad Ward is a very, very physical man. Timber Tech, thank you very much for What's on Deck 9 to noon. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. This is KFAN.
So we don't have to at home.
Aw.
Vikes Bites. Vikes Bites, 9 to noon, brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can shop online, thousandhillslifetimegraze.com. They'll tell you, Matt from Clearwater, Minnesota, owner of Thousand Hills, he'll tell you all about regenerative agriculture. But you can find Thousand Hills at your local co-ops and also Coburn's locations. Thank you, Thousand Hills. Kevin O'Connell, speaking to the media yesterday, he said this week's going to be competitive.
This will be a competitive week. We've got a good plan in place for how we're going to go about the week and then on into the game on Saturday. And we'll get back to work here in Eagan today.
Yeah, we will. It's a week we were just doing, kind of training ourselves, knocking down to the final 53. A week from today, I believe, is cut down day.
Yes, sir.
And at that point, whether our predictions will be correct or incorrect, in the end, we'll have the final answers. Looking at that. And PA, we'll probably discuss this more with Gessling as well, but you mentioned it last segment, man. Lewis Seen, that is a talker. It's not just a feel-good story seeing a guy making plays, but that is going to be a talker as part of the final 53. Here's O'Connell talking about his game.
I was just happy to see him flying around and having fun. I mean, he was having a blast out there. The guys on the sideline were fired up for him. So really cool for Lou to go out there and do that.
And he fits into the system.
Regardless of the scheme, the hope is your players can go out and play fast, play physical, tackle well, see things, read their keys, and be aggressive to go make a play. And he did that.
It's going to be one of the puzzling aspects in terms of a guy, whether it's the injury situation, and then what can he contribute on special teams, but then now even to start this camp. This is a make it or break it situation, and he's watching practices from under the goalposts. But then he shows up in Cleveland, PA, and handles business as well as you would want from a cat that is indeed playing for, I think, his Vikings life. And he's going to be one of those last roster spots that we discuss. But Lewis Cine, you talked about him yesterday. We're talking about him again today. It's one of the more puzzling aspects of what this roster makeup and how Flores might be able to use him. It's one of the biggest questions right now with the purple.
It's FILA, Fairness in Lewis Cine Act, and this comes with all due respect because I've been, I've shared publicly my adoration for Lewis Cine and just knowing some things through which he went after the Tottenham Hotspur injury and all the way back to his first training camp. And, it's just, I think he has a child in Massachusetts, and there just are a lot of things. There are a lot of moving parts in the life of old Lewis Cine. So now, you get to you get to the breadth of it. You get to the steely part of the business. And if they keep 6 safeties, the way I would look at it now would be Harry the Hitman, Josh Metellus, Cam Bynum, Theo Jackson. They're cinches. Jay Ward is as close to a cinch as you can be if he's not a cinch. Well, there we have 5. Now, the intel from producer is they kept 5 safeties last year, and they kept 4 safeties in 2022. I'm already at 5. I'm already at 5 with 22, Joshua Metellus, Cam Bynum, Theo Jackson, and Jay Ward.
Yeah.
Do they put Jay Ward in at the corner spot and then list him as a corner? Well, that means Duke probably takes an L. Maybe Duke's taking an L anyway. So that gets us to Lewis Cine. And there honestly are only 2 ways to look at this. One is, will there be professional pride by those who found him, those who drafted him, and those who are going to be stubborn because they swear there's something inside of that young man that nobody has seen to this stage. Nobody has Lewis to this stage. And they know it's going to come out because they're seeing it in practice and meeting rooms and things like that. The next component would be what just happened in the Cleveland Browns game. Now, the hit on Huntley, that was a big, legal, wonderful hit as safeties go. We have no flags, we have no laundry on the field, we have no clipping penalties, and we have no fines. But outside of that, the interception was thrown right to him, and the blitz from the backside of the quarterback was not seen, and it was untouched. It was not Lewis'd, and he was untouched. So, I mean, ain't nothing easy in that rough and tumble game, but that was rather facile. So, but you have the hit, all right? That's what everybody saw, and we're going off what everybody sees. There's not enough. I mean, if you are in a crunch for an extra offensive lineman, an extra defensive lineman, you don't know what to do with the Duke. The Duke is on fire, active third quarterback, if that's even a thing, then I would have it on the lower side of the probability that this comes to fruition. So it's perplexing. It's perplexing. And I'm not going to commit at this moment on an in or an out. But I think if you listen to the way I just kind of laid that out, those of the learned variety will have an idea which way I'm leaning.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at too, PA. I think more about, again, the utility of him as a player at this point. When you started naming some of those safeties, you're talking about Jay Ward even maybe being able to complement and contribute at a corner spot. can Lewis effectively do any of those things? And at this stage, it's like it's special teams or bust. I would also say this, and we'll find out next Tuesday, but the key for me here, what they did with Andrew Booth. Now, Andrew was a second-round pick, not a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that was a statement when you're talking about the stubbornness, and they are different players. So maybe the way that they view Lewis is it certainly and probably is different than Andrew. But in the end, I don't believe that there's a fear or a hesitance to trade a guy simply because he was a day 2 or a day 1 pick.
Yeah.
So at this stage, it simply is by merit. And he has an uphill battle. So we certainly shall see. One more. Vikes Bites. Thank you, Thousand Hills. Brought to you by, let me see here, KL Audio. Adding Stephon Gilmore breeds competition.
I think guys should feel confident. We've seen some really good performances out of that room throughout camp. They've been tough to go against every day, and it's been tight coverage and a lot of activity at the line of scrimmage, press, different techniques as we're trying to, maybe continue to be more competitive on some of those weighty down, known passing type downs to go along with the pressures and the different looks and personnel that we try to run.
The breeding of competition, and this kind of plays into the 53 as well, but really just in a vacuum, what we were talking about yesterday, PA, the head coach is kind of hitting on that there where, okay, we brought a guy in. That's a signal. That's a signal to McGlothern. That's a signal to Duke. That's a signal to a Caleb Evans that we ultimately did not see what we needed to see from this position group in totality. So this is going to make the room better, but also Evans and Duke and all of these guys are now, and Jay Ward, as we've talked about, they're now all fighting for potential competitive spots. So it's not only what they're going to do out there and practice on the boundaries as corners. What are you giving me from a special team standpoint? And Jay Ward feels that vibe with special teams, playing most of it his rookie year. What can Duke or Evans and some of these other guys do to make the team? It's going to be interesting, but certainly competitive, it sounds like, among the corners.
Well, Jay Ward is either a full special teams guy or he plays most of them. Jay Ward could be one of the 2 gunners they use each game. Now, Najee Thompson and then this mysterious injury, and Najee was developing into one of the better gunners in all of the NFL.
And they loved him, right?
Right. But we haven't seen him at all. I haven't seen him at all. I think I saw him in the hallway one time a couple of weeks ago. But so now, thinking he's going to be gunner 1 or gunner 1A into the Giants game, that's the leap of all leaps ever to leap. So now you have openings for 2 new gunners. What's a gunner? Those of you looking to cultivate football minds. When Ryan Wright goes back to punt and 2-time All-Pro Sir Poe, when he snaps it back to Ryan Wright, 3rd-year Tulane, they're the guys on the outside. The ones that try to deke those, if there are 2, they're trying to put said gunner in a vice. If it's one-on-one and they're right up on you, well, that's where you need to make that guy miss and zing down the field and stop the punt returner. And Najee Thompson got really, really good at it. So now Jay Ward, I believe, would be in that mix with Kene Nwanwu and Jalen Naylor. When Jalen Naylor was a gunner at Tottenham Hotspur, I believe it was Tottenham Hotspur, Ryan Wright, a rookie, threw a pass to him.
Yep.
And they completed a nice little hit. So you can fake with Naylor where you might not be able to with Nwanwu or Jay Ward. Okay, so now you have those 3 right there. So Jay Ward, Jay Ward's on the team. I don't even know why I put it at a 98%. So now after that, when it comes to special teams and when it comes to everything that's functioning there, that plays into Lewis Seen's inclusion on the team. That plays into Duke Shelley and Tristan Jackson. And CJ Ham is fantastic at special teams and one of the team leaders and he's the fullback for the team. Ty Chandler and or Nwanwu, what are their roles going to be? If Chandler, if like now you're going to have Aaron Jones as your starting running back. So how much when you start the regular season with this new kickoff clipping penalty, how much is it going to be Nwanwu and or Chandler or Powell and or Chandler or Nwanwu? because I believe they'll put 2 back there. And as I'll share with Ben Gessling, I've watched a lot of these kick returns, and I mean I might be wrong with this, but when we kick this thing open in the regular season, I think the explosive nature of these kick returns is going to rear its beautiful head all over the National Football League, because ain't nobody showing anything right now. And I've seen enough in Vikings practice to know that when certain players double certain players in certain spots, and they run plays, and Kane gets that sideline, it's lights out. So nobody is showing anything with this kick return part of it. So I think that thing's going to explode a little bit, and I think that plays into some of the players who stay on the team, the ones that are in front of said returners, and it all plays into the numbers game, which is courtesy of 9 to noon.
Indeed. Vikes Bites! You want to go long here, or do you want to pause? I got one more Vikings talker, and then I got a couple of cuts around the league, one of which is loosely connected to a certain member of our team.
Go on with it. No, continue the segment. Let's go on with it.
No, I'm just grabbing my Gilmore audio. Stefan Gilmore, fresh to the team, PA, and he spoke to the media yesterday, and I'm just grabbing the audio as we speak. Stefan Gilmore, why he chose Minnesota?
Just the facility, how they treat you. They from the training room to the weight room, all that is top notch. So that's one reason I picked here.
And he's happy to be back with Brian Flores.
Just he's aggressive. He's offense is really scared to go against his defenses. So I know the disguise is pretty good. Always had a good defense no matter where he went, and I'm just trying to be part of that.
Now, one question I had yesterday when we were talking to Pete Bursich was, man, he hasn't been here at camp. What's the learning curve? All of that. Here's what he had to say in that regard.
I played a lot of ball, but you still got to put the work in. Now that I'm out here, you got to put the work in every day. So wasn't able to beat my body up much in training camp, but I'm excited to get out each and every day and put the work in to get where I need to go.
And the old guy, 33, on the verge of 34, he's out there to prove himself?
Always, man. Anytime I step between that line, I try to go hard and just to show people I still got it. Just keep proving it. Every year, just got to put the previous year behind you and prove it every year. So that's my mindset.
So the mercenary, the gun for hire, is in town and apparently ready to rock.
The one of the keys from those sound bites for me, I believe, unless I heard it wrong, was he said I wasn't at training camp to beat up my body. Now, at age 33, to be 34 a month from yesterday, there are 2 ways to look at that, probably multiple, but definitely 2. I'm 33. I'm soon to be 34. I wasn't at training camp to beat up my body. On the other side of it, I'm 33, soon to be 34. I wasn't at training camp, so therefore, where is my body physically when it comes to football shape into the regular season opener? And this is I'm faith before fear guy 10 of 10 times. But so therefore, I'm thinking over the course of time, those who are of the veteran variety who play positions where the legs and the hips they travel in abnormal fashion. In other words, you got the back pedal and you have the turnaround in the sprint, and then you got the hip turns. And we're not trying to sound like Vince Lombardi here, but nevertheless, with the corners, the legs and the running and the hamstring and the hamstrings and just everything that goes into it. The medical team here and the strength and conditioning team here are fantastic. And obviously everything I'm saying right now in outsider-like fashion would be things for those in the inside that they've seen and they know, and they have examples from days gone by where it's like, okay, I remember, now no 2 bodies are the same, but I remember when, say, so-and-so missed organized team activities and training camp through July and part of August, and then got here and so-and-so pushed here, and all of a sudden my man was out 6 weeks with a hamstring. or some type of groin strain or something like that, calf muscle, whatever, who knows. And the age part of it, I do believe, fairly fits into the equation here. So when Gilmore says, I wasn't at training camp to beat up my body, well, that's good because he knows more about keeping his body in tip-top shape than anybody at this stage of the equation. But we're talking arriving and then 3 weeks later potentially playing every play opposite Malik Neighbors. And if Brian Flores, which he's been on record to share, if he wants to play more man-to-man defense, and that's what Gilmore does. I mean, there was a point in Stephon Gilmore's career, like back when he was winning the Super Bowl with the New England Patriots, where, I mean, he was really, really difficult to get around when he would jam you at the line of scrimmage. I'm not super familiar with what he did with the Dallas Cowboys. There were some moments in his season with the Indianapolis Colts where, I mean, whether it's Justin Jefferson going 2 to his 1 or some other games with the Colts, there just seemed to be some problems. But that doesn't mean that's exactly who Stephon Gilmore is. When he says that, likes the staff and likes the teammates and it's great to be back with Brian Flores and the facilities, as Chris Long and Bo Allen, part of that Green Light podcast, when they jumped on 9 to noon yesterday, right at the end, I chatted with them for about a half hour before they taped their podcast before I left. And it's business as usual for newbies when they run into Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. And this stuff matters to players, the convenience and the comfortability and the accessibility and things like that. So Long and Allen were like, I mean, this is the best that anybody has ever seen. And they're right, because everybody says that when they roll into Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. It's absolutely fantastic. It's spacious. They have a lot of unique recovery type things that I understand, a fair amount of teams in the NFL don't have. So Gilmore is seeing that and experiencing that. I do think fairly it is a sweat with a guy that age who was not raised in the offseason by your strength and conditioning staff and your training staff, and then now on the fly is backpedaling, turning, running, jamming, and all that. And hopefully he gets through it, because like we said yesterday, with Gilmore, Fabian Moreau, Shaq Griffin, and Byron Murphy Jr., that's like 441 games of regular season experience. Where last year you came into it with Byron Murphy and a Caleb Evans, then Mekhi Blackman, that was like 61. And it's whether it's Patrick Peterson or Terrence Newman would be another example around here, is we've come across our fair share of veteran corners who mostly are required to play man defense. That would be Terrence Newman for sure when he was here with Zimmer, because Zimmer loved to play man defense. And they've seen so much and they know so much about themselves. And it comes down to film study. I mean, so much of it for these veterans when they're 33 and 34, they just have to spend X amount extra hours in the metaphorical classroom, which may be on their couches at their homes on Tuesdays, learning every last nuance of what their assignment is going to do, because the 4-2 ain't the 4-2 anymore, and the turns, the turns. I mean, sometimes they can be of the battleship variety. If you just think of a battleship trying to turn in a large body of water, it just doesn't function as quickly as it used to function, specifically early in the year when you're trying to find your feet, you're trying to get your legs. And all of them off training camp playing minimally in the preseason games, they're all trying to find their feet. They're all looking for their metaphorical sea legs, because they don't play in the final 2 preseason games. And then you have a 3-week wait for the first regular season game. So those can be tenuous times, whether you've been here, for the last 4 or 5 months, or you just been here 4 minutes like Gilmore. Those can be tenuous times for strength and conditioning staffs and trainers early in the season to make sure everybody's squared away and nothing strange happens to the old veteran hammy early in the equation. And with Gilmore, I think all of that is fair to consider until you catch wind, or you just know because you're watching the games that this guy's ready to go. And Fabian Moreau, too. I mean, Fabian Moreau wasn't with the team, I don't think, in organized team activities. And, Fabian Moreau has been here 3 weeks. Stephon Gilmore has been here 3 minutes. So when I said yesterday that if you consider the cornerback situation for the Minnesota Vikings to be that of desperation, then a desperate time calls for a desperate measure. And Moreau, having been here 3 weeks and then in his first, second, and third days running with the ones, that has some desperate measure to it. The Gilmore signing at 1 and 10 with 7 guaranteed. Like I said yesterday, props to Steph and his representation for not budging from exactly what they want or close to what they want, because they knew it would come. Because corners that crafty and have that kind of pedigree, they're tough to find. So that desperate measure is just going to have to show through the remainder of training camp and up to the Giants game that he can not only do it the way Flores wants it done, and he knows flow, but when he and Flores were together, I think Brian was the linebackers coach for the New England Patriots. So he hasn't been his position coach, and he wasn't his coordinator. So now that part of it's going to be new too. But when you're a scholar of the game, and inherently you should be a scholar of the game if you've played a decade and change and you're coming up on age 34, the veterans, they pick up on all of that stuff very quickly. So it seems to be a valuable addition to the cornerback covenant as they head into this Giants game after getting through Philly Freedom this Saturday.
That's Vikes Bites, brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grays. They got some camp cuts around the corner. That includes audio from Tua Tagovailoa and Tom Brady, PA. Looking forward to that.
And looking forward to Ben Gessling, who covers the team for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com, joining us in studio about 20 minutes from now. And in the final hour, we will begin the 11 o'clock hour with something called Turnaround for 10. And it involves teams who had bad records looking for a turnaround to get to 10 wins or more. But it also could include teams that had more than 10 wins having a turnaround to 10 that is of the regression variety. It was fun to write. Hopefully you enjoy it. That's at 11 o'clock. Dan Hayes from San Diego after the Twins L last night. He's nice enough to join us a couple of hours from now. He's with The Athletic and TheAthletic.com. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen, and this is 9 to noon on KFAN.
Camp cuts.
What's going on around the National Football League? We like to do training camp cuts and check on the who, what, where, when, and or why of things transpiring throughout National Football League training camps. Indeed, we call them camp cuts, and here they are.
Indeed. We're going to start with the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa was with, I believe it's the Dan Le Batard show. And he was kind of talking, love Mike McDaniel and all of this, Flores, and kind of comparing Flores, his tenure as head coach of the Dolphins, with what he's apparently enjoying greatly now in South Beach. Freshly signed, fat paycheck, the whole bit. Everything's going well for Tua. But here's what he had to say in regard to Flores v. McDaniel.
To put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad. And you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that. I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear, or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself.
So that's Tua, obviously referencing the terrible person in this equation would be Brian Flores, the guy that comes in and says that you can do this and that you're perfect and amazing. That would be Mike McDaniel. Before we opine on it at all, Kevin O'Connell was talking with the media yesterday. Heard some of his audio last segment. Here he is specifically on Brian Flores.
I don't particularly have a comment on, something that took place with another team, or I don't like to comment on comments of other players on other teams, but I can just tell you I know the players Flo works with. He's got great relationships here. He really has. I know you guys have heard a lot of them talk about how much they enjoy playing for him and how much I enjoy working with him every day, and that's all I can really comment on, and I just like to leave it at that.
So there's Kevin O'Connell, and that's, if you expected anything less or else from KO in that respect, then I don't know what you were thinking. That's exactly what the head coach thought and exactly what the head coach had to say. PA kind of reminds me, we've had many conversations about Mike Zimmer over the course of time. You remember Eric Kendricks leaving. There were some comments maybe about a fear-based culture that could have existed within the ranks of the team a couple of years ago.
Right.
By the way, 2 years later, Kendricks now, I believe, is in Dallas with Mike Zimmer as the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. But when you heard that audio, what hit you mentally? And now that Flores has been here for a couple of years, you get a chance to know him. A lot of positive praise coming from the head coach. What do you think?
Well, I thought this out a little bit because I knew it was coming today. And when I heard it yesterday, or when you texted it to me, or somebody sent it to me, and I listened to it, and then I listened to it again. And Tua, I looked in his eyes and I saw this. I don't buy into that. It's your discernment is your discernment, and you ride it, and you execute things with conviction. And he did. He sounded super authentic. But he also, reading between the lines, he sounds confused. In that I just can't. Maybe it's an overstatement to say every single day somebody is telling you how bad you are, and then somebody else comes in and tells you how good you are. Well, that sounds like a confused individual to me. And it's, there's been a lot either from Tua or things that I've read online along the lines of, well, what do you do in that situation? You have conviction. You stick up for yourself. If you truly are being treated in remedial, at subservient, and or tear him down fashion every single day, sooner or later, you got to say to somebody, hey, man, can so-and-so lay off me? Think about where you were taken. And because players can play this game too. I was drafted here. You don't like to think this way, but sometimes you have to defend yourself, I guess, or to use it in context to establish some other form of point. But I was drafted here. I got paid this much money. Whether you like me or not, I'm the quarterback. And you can bench me all you want, and you can, I'm here to improve, man. I'm here to improve, but I'm not here to improve by being told that I'm awful every single day, which I just can't believe happened. Somebody every single day as a head coach would mentally tear down the most important player and or spot on the team. But I'm not one to say that didn't happen either. He said it happened. I would bet the other way if it was a heaven or hell equation, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. So that there just was a layer and or air of confusion that hit me when I was listening to him. And I'm not even one to be like, all right, well, in 2020 in 2020, why didn't you speak up then or speak up publicly? I'm not that guy either, because that's a lot easier for tomato can throwers from afar to say that's how you should do things. But now, as far removed as we are from it, let's not forget, Brian Flores is mixed up legally with the NFL, and a lot of it started in Miami. So when it comes to the Dan Le Batard show or wherever you're speaking, I'm not saying Tua Tagovailoa is going to fix the race and just do it simply because he's compensated by the Miami Dolphins. However, that also needs to be included in the equation of what's going on between Flores, the Dolphins, and the National Football League. So my relationship with Brian really doesn't matter in this equation. I really enjoy Brian Flores. His company, our company to this stage has been 20% football, 80% Christianity type stuff. And I just love my relationship with Brian Flores. And so that's my relationship with him. With Tua, I think there's too much there for all of it to be true. But if some of it or a large portion of it is true, then I would wonder why a head coach would play games like that consistently with the most important guy on the roster, and then why the most important guy on the roster either wouldn't stand up for himself or wouldn't go to somebody else and say, can this stop? Or come over the top and be like, my man, I mean, I'm doing my best to get better here, okay? But, I mean, it's I may have been here before you got here, and I'll be here after you're gone. So let's find a new way to handle this whole let's get to a better equation. It was very interesting listening to that yesterday.
Another camp cut for you, this time from Tom Brady, talking about an issue with rookie QBs in the league.
I had to learn from being 7th quarterback on the depth chart to moving up to 3rd to ultimately being a starter. I had to learn all those things in college. That was development. Then I went to New England, and I was developed by Coach Belichick and the offensive staff there. I didn't start my first year. I think it's just a tragedy that we're forcing these rookies to play early. But the reality is the only reason why they are is because we dumbed the game down, which has allowed them to play. It used to be thought of at a higher level. We used to spend hours and hours in the offseason and training camp trying to be a little bit better than next year. But I think what happens is discourages the coaches from going to deep levels because they realize the players don't have the opportunity to go to a deep level, so they're just going to teach them where they're at.
What do you think? What do you think about that from the standpoint?
Damn.
What I heard from Brady there is, well, this becomes chicken or egg type stuff. But if you have to force a young kid in, there are limitations with said rookie. So therefore, you have to water down, simplify things, devolve the game to some extent.
Right.
So now you're working off of a lower platform than under the idea of getting a guy working harder, the development plan. Hopefully Kevin O'Connell is that we're talking about a plan like that for J.J. McCarthy. But pretty aggressive remarks from Tom Brady as he looks at, we had 6 guys drafted in the top 12. I have some audio here with Caleb Williams talking about how good his offense might potentially be. And everyone's excited about Jaden Daniels and everybody out east. So all these rookies that are forced into the mix, let's go Bo Nix, right? And then meanwhile, you hear Tom Brady going, "No, this is not good for the game. Actually, this makes the position worse.
Yeah.
By forcing these kids into it." It was an interesting little clip there.
Well, I don't know if he gave examples or if there were examples that were presented to lead to that response. But like what came to my mind would be Mac Jones with the New England Patriots and Kenny Pickett with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm not going to say Brady's wrong because he knows 10 out of 10 more about this than I'll ever know. I'm not going to disagree with him. But it depends on the level of the quarterback, with the gifts that the quarterback has, meshing with what type of offensive line they have, what type of defense they have to amplify and complement what the quarterback and the offense want to do, and so on and so on. Is your head coach of the defensive-minded variety, or is it an offensive-minded head coach where, like J.J. McCarthy from rookie camp through training camp, the strides that young man made with his footwork and with the touch on passes and things like that, it was exponential. But still, in my heart of all hearts, I didn't feel like, like starting him against the Giants is the right idea right now. Now, I mean, they're afforded the opportunity to wait for McCarthy, at least they feel they were before he got hurt. Not every team is in that situation. I mean, Daniel Jones, who we'll talk about at 11, when he was drafted out of Duke, it's the best season, or arguably one of the best seasons he's had of his career was his rookie year. Now, his coordinator, Pat Shurmur, it's important to Pat to run the ball. And Pat likes to run to set up play action and protect his quarterback. All right, Mike Kafka, I believe, is their offensive coordinator now. They bring in Malik Neighbors. Their offensive line is a complete disaster and has been the last couple of years, as you'll learn at 11 o'clock when we hit the turnaround to 10. There's so much that goes into it. I'm going to say Captain Cool is right, but he also is a super, super high-end example, along with like Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins is another one, where they just embrace it, see it, and get it more quickly than most. And maybe that's the case with these rookies. With Caleb Williams, there has not been a bad thing I've seen from that young man, whether reading practice and training camp reports, watching Hard Knocks, or watching his snaps. But that also can be an outlier in the high-end example. But what was really interesting about what Tom said is that it has a trickle-down effect to it if what he's saying is right. If you're having to, say, dumb down offenses because these kid quarterbacks are starting too soon, which I would tend to agree with, well, then that means the defense you have, which is practicing against them, what's the defense getting out of it? I mean, maybe an inflated or conflated belief in how good it is, and then it gets into games against quarterbacks with savvy and gets killed. Because what are they getting out of it if they're going against somebody who shouldn't be in the spot at that stage in the first place? That was fascinating, all of that, what Tom Brady said. Ben Gessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com on the State of the Skull around the corner. It is KFAN.